Hello again, YouTube fans. It's me again, and I'm coming. That's better. Except I kind of look like a Marvel villain now with my evil goatee and my upward stare, which is perfect for this video because, as you can see, it's not going to be a paintball video. We're getting back into my collectibles a bit. I know I said I would be giving up on the collectibles because they weren't that interesting, but this guy right here, I had to go and make one more video. I got this for my birthday, and I just... Hold on, my back is starting to hurt. Yeah, that's better. Much better. Alright. This is my Hot Toys Iron Man Mark V. Now, Hot Toys, if you haven't heard of them before, is they're a company that specializes in making extremely detailed action figures based around movies and video games and comic book characters and whatnot. And when I say extremely detailed, it is unbelievable the detail they go. Now, they're not meant to be played with, they don't have the structural durability of that, but the amount of parts and design that goes into these things is always just incredible. To give you a good example, there was the Heath Ledger Joker figure made a few years ago, and it was so detailed and so photorealistic in the face that you could actually move the eyeballs inside the head to decide where they were going to look when you were posing it. That's how detailed it was to go. And they always come with multiple parts, multiple hands and faces and stuff, so you can do different things. But it really is, they're just meant to be designed, or they're just designed to be posed any way that you see fit, and they will, you know, and then you can leave it there. You could either do a stereotypical pose like I've done here with the way it is presented in the movie, or the, you know, I could do anything else I wanted at any point in time. Now, one of the downsides is talking about how posable and how all the options you have with this. I don't really want to change the pose of my figure because I kind of like the way it is right now, but I will get a close-up of all the detail here in a minute, because I mean, the detail they put into these things, and even when there's a human face, the stuff that they do, I mean, it makes Madame Tussauds wax gallery look like she was making Bratz dolls. I mean, it is that detailed. It's photorealistic. If you get a good enough picture in there, it looks like you're really looking at Iron Man. And so with that, I'm going to have to get in close and let you guys really see the detail, but I wanted to give you this little introduction first. Yeah, the figure is amazing, and some might ask, well, why did you get the Mark V? Because they literally make every Iron Man figure in this whole movie series. And if you're wondering what the Mark V means, is the first one that he built in the cave was the Mark I. The silver one, that's the first one that flies, is the Mark II. The one at the end of Iron Man 1, the movie, is the Mark III. And then at the beginning of Iron Man 2, and you can't see my poster up here, is actually the Mark IV. Even though it's supposedly the same one as the end of Iron Man 1, there were subtle changes to it, so they called it the Mark IV. Then you get to the Mark V. And beyond that, you got the triangle chest one, it would be like that. That was, in fact, the Mark VI. But like I said, we got to the Mark V, and the Mark V was the suitcase, the football, as he calls it, suit, the one that he could carry around in case of emergencies and didn't have to be at his lair where he had all the robotic arms just attacking him with all these pieces. And it was a very limited suit, and a lot of people would say, well, why didn't you just spring for the, you know, the Mark IV or the Mark VI or any of those guys with all the features that those guys come with? And there's two reasons why I didn't go for that. Number one reason is, without a doubt, this was my favorite suit out of the entire movie. This was my, I loved it. I wanted to see more of it. And you ask why? Well, it's because of this scene right here. How cool was that? I mean, it's just all the little pieces just ching, and all of it just going on him, and the fact that it was portable so he could do it at any time. I mean, it was I just loved that scene, and even though it's such a short spot for this suit, I really loved it. But you know, the other reason why that I liked this suit over all the rest of them is it's also the cheapest. Yeah, it's the only one I could afford. It's only about $200 right now, and I'm not sure why. I mean, my assumption is, number one, nobody really wanted this suit. They always wanted to spring for the other suits with all the cool gadgets and the more scenes in the movies, and this was just a brief throwaway suit. And number two, it doesn't really do much. Whereas in the other figures, they have literally everything from the little rockets folding out of the shoulders, to the mask lifts up, to the little tank busting rocket that folds out, or if you get the War Machine, oh good God, the stuff you can do with that figure. All the little flaps and panels open up with all this detail underneath. You can see all the little hydraulics and everything. They've even got the one with the one that Don Cheadle is taking apart on the desk, and you can take all the pieces off, and there's all the stuff underneath and the arc reactor and all that. Whereas in this figure, honestly, was a little disappointing on how little it does. It does come with a suitcase right here that doesn't open or anything like that, but the suitcase does include real working handcuffs. I mean, these are actual opening and closing handcuffs, and I'll get into closer on that in a minute. The other thing that it includes is battle damage, because if you continue watching that scene, you see that, I mean, he just gets the crap beaten out of him, really. They mimicked the damage from that scene pretty well. It's not as damaged because the legs don't come with any damage, the mask doesn't come with any damage. You only can really change one arm and his chest, and that to me was a little strange. It seemed out of place for all the other figures that I have seen. The other thing you get included with this is you get two stands, and I'll talk about this in a minute. You get this one, and you get this little smaller, less detailed stand, and I'll talk about that at the end. And it all comes in this fancy, shiny, very shiny box, which you slide out the cover, and there he is, like sitting in there, and there's all the extra pieces that I need to get out in a second anyways. And it's got the more pictures on the back and everything, but not much more detail than that. Just sort of the there's like a cast of who went into making this, but other than that, it's it's just a box. It's good to keep because it's good to store stuff in. In there you get a lot of weird things, but most importantly you get is all the extra little parts that go with it. Let's get this out of here because we're gonna need them. So yeah. So when you get into the details of this figure, though, that's what really you're buying, and for the $200 price tag, totally worth it. I mean, I don't care how many of those little action figures I have from this video. But, the Mark V with the suitcase right here, pretty detailed for it's got some paint issues, but it's detailed nonetheless, more detailed than you would expect from Walmart. This just beats them all, and hands down. And all you got to do is just, I mean, honestly, I would trade all of those guys back in for just another one of these, like one of the other suits and everything like that. So the first thing I need to do to get this going, though, is you got to see that it does light up. Everything on it lights up, and it's all individual. So if you just wanted to turn on the flip the switch the right way, arc reactor, there you go. Then you got this hand has its own switch, so let's turn that on. And then you got this hand back here has its own switch, and let's get that guy on. And of course, missing one of the most important parts is the eyes. Eyes light up. Now my head on this figure is a little finicky, and if I move it too much, the eyes will actually just go out, and I'm not sure what that issue is. Oh, and I forgot the most important part. Actually, no, it's not the most important part. This was probably the most important part, but this is still cool. Yeah, the base lights up too. So yeah, you got this whole figure, and you do have the option of another arm that's all battle damage. You can switch out with this one, and it too does, in fact, light up. And it has its own second possible hand, and we'll get into the closer details for all that. And then you got the extra damaged chest piece right there. It just goes where that piece is, and again, you're not going to be able to see it from this angle, but when I get closer, you'll be able to take a better look. And I've got him on this stand. He's got this little detail of one of the cool things is how everything has posability, everything about it. You can see just how detailed it is. Let me get the suitcase out of the way. In all of its glory and the light, and the lights are shining, and he's got this cool pose. I got his back foot here is kind of up on one toe, while the front foot is firmly planted, and his knees are bent, and I've got the fist back here and everything. And one of the cool things about this is that his fingers are all articulated, so you can move his fingers however you want. And yes, I have done the flip somebody off picture, and it's fully possible with both hands. The downside of it is that is as far as you can bend the fist back, and I learned the hard way that if you try any harder than that, you will break it. It's actually very common for people to break this figure. I see it all over forums because his hands only go about that far back, so you have to sort of angle his arm like this to get the repulsor, which looks awkward. I mean, you can even see right here on the picture, he's got his hand all back like that. But yeah, that's as far back as it goes, unless you use this hand, which comes tilted back. And again, we'll get into closer details on that in a second. But yeah, you got this. I got his one hand in a fist and the other hand in as best as I can with that repulsor right there. And it's just kind of sad because if you just try to bend it back a little bit, what happens is it yanks the whole wrist assembly out. And yes, you can switch the hands out, but there's a ball, but the part that the ball is connected to comes out with it when you try to bend it back too far, and there is no getting it back in. I mean, I'm sorry, there's none, alright? There's no way in the world to get it back in. I have tried and tried and tried. I did way more damage than I did by actually pulling it out. I did way more damage putting it back in. So the company that sold it to me, though, was excellent in customer service, and they just sent me a whole new arm to replace it, and that was the common solution. So let's get into the closer details now, and all that. Let me just grab the camera and bring it on in here, and let's get the focus going on his groin there. And look at that! Look at that! That is just. I mean, everything, they didn't miss a beat on this guy. You can see not just detail, but detail under detail. There's his face with all the lines. Now granted, in the movie, you don't really see those lines, but they are there. But these guys included them so you could really get a good look at it. His eyes, I think the batteries are dying in there because they are not as bright as they used to be. But then again, it could just because it's really bright in here. So yeah, and I'm going to try to keep the focus as much as possible. To show you, by the way, how much detail goes into this, I just want to show you this little bit right here, where if you move his arm forward, right here, it bumps into this thing, but that's okay because they thought of that ahead of time and added a spring-loaded slider right there. That's right. This piece goes in to his body and this piece slides over it. So if you're moving his arm that way, yeah, it'll move out of the way for that very reason. That's just, I mean, that's the stuff that they go into. That's the detail. I mean, you can see, let's look right here. You can see all the little detail in his hand, and there's the little, you see all the jointed fingers that I've posed myself, and how well they go. And that's another thing that's kind of funny, because we're going to go down here to this hand, which is currently in a fist, and it looks good. It looks like a good fist, plus we have the light inside of it as well. And you might say to yourself, so, you know, what's so weird about that? It looks great. I mean, why would you ever have a complaint about that? Well, the complaint I have is that it also comes with a pre-fisted fist. And to me, this is kind of strange. Like, all the stuff that they did not include in this guy. They didn't include a mask with a Tony Stark face behind it. They didn't include a you know, damage on the legs or anything like that. They just included, you know, the chest and the one arm. So why did they include a fist that does not light up? By the way, you can see right there, its little arc reactor does not light up. When the whole time you could just go ahead and make a fist. I mean, what's wrong with that fist? In fact, it looks more realistic than that because you can see the molding in it and everything like that. So it just kind of seems like this piece was a real waste. Like, like they could have made something else in the time that they were making this, but whatever. I digress. But yeah, so therefore you can make them a little fisted. Here we've got, you can see the boot in all of its detail and with the lighted stand underneath. And you can see right here, this will slide up out of the way so that you can bend the toe up. Let's try to do this without messing up my stance. So if you slide the toe up, this will slide up underneath it, and all of that. I mean, that's, you can see all the little pieces moving, the little flaps over there and everything. So yeah, you got all the detail of that right there. You got all the little bolts and everything. You can just see. It's kind of disappointing that right here we do see a hinge, which seems a little sloppy for them, because if you get up into the elbows here, you can actually see that they've got rubber covering that up. So why they didn't do rubber back there, I don't know, because it just seems like they just skipped a step that they usually follow. But yeah, and then you got, I mean, like I said, you got all the, you can see if I can get this zoomed in, you can see all the little bolts on his neck, and I mean, look at that next to my pinky. That's my pinky. Look how small that is, and they've got it in there. You know, so yeah, the eyes really look dim now. I think the batteries are almost dead in those, but it's hard to say. No, that's another downside to this, kind of, is that everything lights up on its own. Let's just go ahead and turn that off for you so you can see that there's detail in there too. You can really get into, you can see like there's almost a little arc reactor on the inside and everything like that. But yeah, it's kind of sad that it takes like 5 switches to turn everything on, because that is, it's not only tedious, but the arm batteries might go out quicker than, say, the whole chest will, or vice versa, or the eyes will go out, and then you got to replace batteries individually, and so it just kind of sucks. But let's see here, you got this kind of depth of field, looks pretty neat. But yeah, so I mean, just all this detail, and right here it has this weird spot where you can actually separate the hips. You can actually squeeze it, and let's see if I can do that real quick. Well, no, I'm not gonna bother. You can squeeze it, and those pieces connect together, and it gives you a straighter waistline there. He likes, like, he's standing upright, but then you can pull it apart, so you can make him really bend his back a little bit. You can see how he's leaning forward a little bit. That's cool, but it's also, it's really neat that they put that in there, but it also sort of takes away from it just a little bit. Not like, it doesn't ruin it, but once you get close up to it, you know, you start to notice it and go, hey, wait a minute. Now, granted, a lot of it's covered up by this clamp right here, and I will get into that clamp at the end of the video when I talk about the stands and everything. The knees are, they're double jointed so that you can really bend the knees around. You can see the separating apart, and you can bend the knees around so you can be full on squatting and everything like that. And then you got, of course, the stand, which is got this whole thing. And this thing, this is weird. It even has this where you can slide these things out of the way. You can do it on both sides. I don't really know what that's for. It doesn't really serve any purpose, and there's nothing else that it does. It just has that. That's it. But anyways, yep, there is, I mean, this is all the detail that you're getting into, and you can just see it, and it's just gorgeous and everything. And then what we're going to do here is I'm going to very carefully try to, I'm going to cut real quick, and then I'm going to try to switch out the chest and the hand with the battle damage parts, and show you that as well real quick without ruining his position. So hang on one second. This is the battle damage parts right here. You can see it's all torn up from whiplash, smacking him around a bit. But here's what you're gonna do. You just gotta, it's really easy. You gotta pull this off, and it just comes right on off. And then right here's the amazing thing. Right underneath, you can see, look at all this detail that they still got in there. Let me zoom that in a little bit so you can really see it. It is just, you don't even get to see it, and they've got it in there. Well, you kind of get to see it in a second, but the next thing you got to do, and I got to be really careful about this because I need a special tool to do it, and I have apparently misplaced that tool. Alright, so it comes with this little thing right here. It's basically a tiny flathead screwdriver with a flat piece. I mean, I can't really show you much more than that. And you kind of need that for this. Rolling around in this damn plastic, making all this noise. Alright, so you push down. This thing is spring loaded, and you just kind of pop it right off. Popping it off is the easy part. That's definitely always the easy part. It's getting it back on. You gotta stick this in here in a certain way, and really not easy to do when he's standing up like this, but we're gonna figure something out. Alright, sorry for the strange cut right there. What you guys didn't see is right after I popped this little piece off and tried to put the new piece in its place, the little spring inside of it popped right out, and I'm not going to show you that part of the video because it's embarrassing. But yeah, so you got to get this piece on carefully. Let's do it right this time. You just got to slide that on and then push gently to get it into its little slot, and it is a really difficult task. So yeah, and there it goes, and it locks in, and it's damaged, and my heart can start beating again. So let's turn the arc reactor back on. Sorry, I was really worried for a second there and thought I was going to have to order another new part. But you got this little bit of damage right here, you can see, and let's try to crank this up a little bit so I can, there you go. And this is really bright, but still, yeah, you can see the damage in the wiring, and I'll get it close up once I got the pieces on carefully again. And then you got the little chest piece right there, and you just take that and pop it right where the other piece goes. And luckily this is the easy part, and no springs and tiny parts are involved. But except for this, there it goes. And just push it in there. And now you got his battle damaged chest, and you can see that through the rips and stuff like that, you can actually see all that detail underneath that I was talking about that they have, and then there's a little rip right there. So yeah, and then you got, there's the battle damaged chest, and that's really all you get. It's just those two pieces. And the arm here, again, should in theory be the easy part, but you know, I'm just going to nervously try this real quick. So gently, gently, gently pull that on out. It's just a little ball bearing. We can go ahead and turn that off because we don't want to waste the batteries. And then just slide this piece in its place. Again, I'm going to say this a million times now, carefully, because I have seen replacement arms and stuff for this guy be around $40. So, you know, you already spent $200 on the figure itself. Another 40 is just a nightmare. So let's just go ahead and bend that down so that I can pop it in a little easier. And it goes in pretty easy, and then you just, you know, aim it up. You know, and you can twist all these pieces around separately so that you can really get the angle going. Now that I've got that in there, you can see all the detail of that. And let me just go ahead and pop the camera back off so that you can really get a good look of it. And so, yeah, you can really see all the detail. And it even has the little gloved fingers of Tony Stark's racing suit underneath. You can see all the parts of the racing suit. You see little wires and burn marks, and there's a chunk taken out of the shoulder, and there we go. You can really see the detail of everything. There's the burn marks and the pieces underneath, and there's the little piece that nearly destroyed the figure again. So yeah, you can really get it. And of course, this also has a light, so you can get that going. So yeah, and now that I've got it in battle damage mode, so you can see the eyes are still glowing. They still look so dim by comparison. But yeah, there you go. That's the battle damage version. So let's back this out a little bit. You can see all of its glory. And that's it. That's really it on the figure. I did forget to show off the suitcase, but the suitcase is the suitcase. There's nothing really special about that. You can see right there the cuffs that I was talking about, and again, look at my pinky next to it. That's pretty impressive, and that's a real chain and everything like that. So, you know, the cuffs actually mount around that. You can do it optional.
So yeah, and then there you go on the figure. Let me get that kind of shot going. There you go. Pretty cool, huh? Looks pretty realistic. So yeah, and then that's that. Talk about not really much more to talk about outside of that guy. Oh, and I didn't really let you guys see the back too much, and the back is pretty. You can see there's the little switches. That one's for the eyes. That one's for the arc reactor. There's a little screw right there. It kind of sucks because it kind of takes away from the detail, but that's where the batteries are for the little for the arc reactor. You can see all the little pieces. You can see the Iron Man booty and all that, and then all the things up on the arm, pulling the pieces together and everything like that. Shoulder blades. Yeah, so I mean it's pretty sweet. Looks amazing. Looks detailed. And as you just learned from me, once you decide whether you want battle damaged or not, leave it alone. I'm gonna put it back to normal again after this video or whatnot, and then I'm never touching this guy again. So let me get some final thoughts in, and I'll
So there you go. You can really see all the details and all the features of the Iron Man figure. I forgot to mention that there's a little hand here. You can't see it too well, but it's meant to be. It's his curled fingers. It's the same thing with all the little glove pieces and everything from the racetrack suit. It's meant to go with the damaged hand, but it's just in case you don't want them all fingers outstretched. Then you have this little finger hand, and I understand why they didn't do posable fingers for these guys, because the detail in the gloves would just be ruined if you did it that way. But yeah, you can switch this in case you want hit like at his arms at his side instead of all sprawled out. But there's nothing you need to say about that. I mean, you can just picture what it is, and then you got like I said, you got these two little pointless fists, which I don't understand. But if you want him all in a boxer stance, but honestly, as I showed you right here, I did this fist. I just curled his fingers up, and it looks legit. It looks better than legit, in my opinion. So I don't understand why anyone would even want these on there when you can make them yourself. So the last thing I wanted to talk about before I put this guy back to the normal state and never touch it again is I wanted to talk about the stands. Now, I don't want to switch him over on stands because he doesn't even stand on this one very well. But I had a big issue with the stands on this guy. He comes with two of them. He comes with the light up one and this little guy here. And you can kind of see it's got these two hooks. And these hooks are meant to sort of... They hold him up in a very... It's very awkward when you see it. Let's put it that way. They're designed to sort of wrap around the crotch area and hold them up, but they don't really do that very well because they're not big enough, because these are universal and they're designed for all the figures, and they kind of go up in there, if you know what I mean, and they hold them up that way. And it's got Iron Man 2, it's got the Mark V, Mark 5 info on it, but the problem I have with it is that it is actually a better stand, because as you guys saw in this whole video, for him to stand on this one, he has this big clamp around him, and it's a bit of an eyesore by comparison to all the details that you're working with. So I mean, to have this big old clamp around his waist is kind of sad. It's just sort of not really like it should be there. And the design behind it is that you're supposed to be able to sort of lift him up and have him flying, but the Mark V doesn't fly in the movie. I mean, maybe it does. Maybe it has the capability, but in the movie it doesn't do it. So we're going to assume he didn't build that into this model. Yeah, so you got this eyesore of a clamp around it, which is not horrible, but it's definitely not as good as these two little rectal thermometers that hold him up, which really, when he's on this, you don't see anything. But you do see this big black rod going... I can't say this without a straight face. A big black rod going up to his... Oh, poor planning on someone's thought. again, this is actually, damn it, this is actually the better stand because it's less noticeable than a big clamp holding on around him. But this one lights up. It has, look at all this detail. It's got these little slider things that don't make any sense, but they're there. You got a clear rod going up his back. It kind of pole dancer-ish, but you know, it's transparent, so it's not as obnoxious and noticeable. But you have this huge clamp, so you got, they really should have made it so that you can take this thing off and put it on this guy, and vice versa, or something, or you know, get these hooks going on this guy. And this, I think this would be better if he was flying, because it's got all the little words underneath it. When he's standing on it, he's standing on these things. You can't see that. So I always thought that was weird. I thought that was a kind of a strange design flaw out of this, and I'm sure that, you know, it has to do with, you know, we made this for somebody else and we're just reusing it, you know, and all that stuff. We just painted new logos on it. Yeah, I get it. And this is the same thing. This is the same stand that they use for the Mark III and the Mark IV. I've seen it come with these guys. And because it comes with those guys, you know, and those are flying guys, you know, people will put it flying above this thing. I get all that, but it's just sort of, it's kind of sad that you lose, you get this detail, you get the lights, that's the best part, you get the transparent pole, but you get the clamp, and it's like, it just feels like you have to trade, you want 5 things, but you have to trade a big one thing for it. Whereas in this, you get the one nice, awesome thing, and then nothing else. You know, it just seems like it wasn't really well thought out. I would love to get this on this. That would be ideal. But like I said, I mean, honestly, I thought this was the coolest suit, and you know, all the stuff it does in the movie, and I could go on for another 20 minutes talking about how many issues I have with how the hell does this fit in this. It's not just this, how does it fit in this? I mean, I will buy that. I will buy that it fits in this somehow. But how is he able to do this? I mean, to kick a Bentley, you would need a hydraulic the size of my forearm. That doesn't fit in there, and it certainly doesn't fit inside this suit. I could understand that, you know, he could shoot his repulsors because his arc reactor is powering. I can understand that he has armor padding that can protect him against most damage, although I'm not sure how he survives this. From the same whip that just sliced that Bentley in half. I'm not sure how that worked, but again, I can understand that the armor would protect him from something like this. But still, I don't understand how he kicks a car. That's just a small detail, and that scene was just always a favorite to me, and it makes this one of the coolest suits in my opinion. And don't get me wrong, feel free to donate on my webcomic, constructeddestructioncomics.com, and help me invest in a Mark IV or Mark III, because I would just die for one of those as well, because as cool as that scene was, nothing is cooler than this scene. And you just know I want that in my room. But anyways, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below, and we'll see you next time. And the piece should in theory just slide right on, or break off, either way.